When I started working for Lowrider magazine, I wanted a 62 Impala. That's what I really wanted. Way out of my budget. So I go, man, I gotta go outside the box. And I started looking at Rivieras and different year Cadillacs that weren't popular. And then when I found this one, the Cadillac 64 convertible, to me is like, it's a dream car because it's outside of the box. It's different than what you see in the lower seat. It's got a 429 engine. I upgraded the alternator for 150 power, LED headlights, just a lot of little stuff that I did in the motor. And then the paint is a turquoise. That's the way I bought it. The interior is a black vinyl interior that just got done by Nash Interiors in Madera. And I kind of want to go a little different, but keep it close to stock. So the stock ones have diamonds in the seats, and I went with just little rectangle squares. Those are more like Fleetwood style. I want the cars to look as stock as possible. We got a digital radio. I got a set of 72 spoke, 14-inch Danes. And the tires are Remington 155s. That's the goal, is to always keep it simple, but get the high-end stuff, you know what I mean? I ain't got deep pockets. I ain't a mechanic or a wrenchy, so I got to defend a lot of my friends, you know? I'm in a little car club called Envious. And the guys in the club, we've all been friends for years, for decades. So luckily they put in a lot of time, you know, my friends to help me out, get the car to the level it's now for this feature. My dad from a small town in Mexico called Torrecillas. It's in Michoacan, a tiny, tiny town. So when he turned 14, he packed up his bags and somehow he traveled out to the United States, and he crossed illegally. He had to go through the desert and stuff. And he would tell me about the journey, man. It was just days and not really knowing if you're going the right direction or not. You just didn't know. When my dad became a citizen, he bought a video camera. I think it was like $60 at the time, but it was a lot of money for us. So all the birthday parties and everything, my dad would bring out his camera and record everybody. And he captured a lot of moments that we would never have if it wasn't for that. It wasn't just video, it was capturing moments, saving moments. And that's what he would say, like, you know, you never know what the future has in store for us, so you always got to remember this stuff. And this is something that'll stay forever. He always had a camera. He would upgrade throughout the years and stuff. And I was into lowrider, and that's what I was into. So I'd go to car shows and stuff, and I would just buy these little disposable little cameras, the ones you had to wind up and take photos. And I take photos of cars and girls at the shows and stuff. My dad bought me my first professional camera, which to me was a professional at the time. I didn't know any better, but it was an interchangeable lens, a little Rebel, and a film camera. And here, just take this one instead of taking the disposable cameras, use this one. And he was already kind of preparing me, like, without me knowing. And so I'd go to the car shows and I had my professional camera. I felt like, oh, I'm big time, you know what I mean? I got the interchangeable lens, so I would take photos and I seemed more professional. And the job I had at the time was at a warehouse where I thought that's where I'm gonna retire here. And then the company had a big layoff, so half the people were gone, and I was one of the ones that was laid off. And I was so bummed out, I didn't know what to do. And then my dad was like, hey, I'm shooting a wedding, you know, they need a photographer. So I'm like, well, damn, you know, now it's out of necessity. Like, okay, I'll do it. I already have my camera and stuff like that. And I went with my dad to a wedding he had. I took the photos, blah, blah, blah. We printed them out because it was all film. And then he's the first one that gave me a lesson. He tore me up like, dude, look at the framing, it's so horrible. You're cutting out the back, you know, you can't cut out he gave me my first lesson as far as visually, what to look for. He said, when you look around the photo, make sure they're in center, make sure their head's not too high. And like, he just understood the vision. He never took any classes. He didn't know anybody did video. He just had the vision. And he's the one that was kind of passing to me, like, this is what you have to look for. After that first lesson, my photos became a lot better just by being able how to frame it. So I decided I had this right there, like, oh, I'm gonna do a calendar. I go out there in car shows and I start telling people, hey man, I'm gonna do a calendar, I wanna shoot your car. And most of the people were like, man, like, they didn't want nothing to do with it, you know? This is before social media. And I had a weekend set. One of my buddies, let me use his car stereo shop, bought fluorescent lights to hang up on the wall. I didn't think about the reflection on the paint, you know? I put a sheetrock on the bottom so I could paint it white, so I wouldn't paint his floor white. And I had 12 cars scheduled for a weekend. 6 on Saturday, 6 on Sunday. And Saturday, none of the cars showed up. No calls, no nothing. I'm like, damn, you know, like, I'm never gonna be able to do this. I want to do a counter, but nobody's coming through. Next day, everybody else was no show. So I already started breaking down the studio. I'm like, it's not gonna happen. And I'm putting stuff away in my car, and then you see the off ramp. This beautiful magenta, big body Cadillac. Oof, like the paint just popped, you know? And I'm like, oh man, she's coming through, because it was a girl that owned it, a girl named Lucinda Kyohi in the Bay Area. And I got all excited. I'm like, oh man, you know? And she pulled in, and they get off. I'm like, oh, you came through? And like, yeah, you know, blah, blah. And they started cleaning down the car, wiping it down. So I started setting up my setup. And you know, we got some nice photos, but my photos didn't come out so good. You know what I mean? I was still learning. I was still shooting on P for professional. So that's my only style. That's all I had. You know, I didn't know aperture. I didn't know nothing. You know, I was just shooting. And all those photos, what I did is I print them, because it looked like a little studio. It looked kind of cool, and I put them on an album. So I'll walk around car shows with it. And I start telling people, hey man, I'm doing a calendar, blah, blah. This is my work. So once people start seeing your work, like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm interested. 2 years later, I did another calendar. The next year I was already shooting, like, I started getting better cars, better girls. My photos were definitely a lot higher quality. And then I started working on my third calendar when I get a message on MySpace. It was a friend of mine. So when an opportunity came where Joe Ray was looking for a photographer to cover Northern California, he was already freelancing for Lowrider magazine and brought my name up and got me connected with Joe. And Joe kind of explained what he's expecting and what to do and this and that. So I'm like, okay. So then that's when I really got serious. Like, dude, the world's gonna see my photos. Like, it's not a hobby no more. I didn't know what a full frame camera was. I had a crop camera. I didn't know there was such a thing. So I'm like, okay, well, I need a full frame camera. Okay, I need lighting. I need power boxes because I'm shooting outside. I spent close to $20,000 out of my pocket to upgrade all my camera gear, my lighting, and all this stuff. And you know, I was only getting paid a couple $100. You know what I mean? So it wasn't about the money. Just because I wanted to show my best, you know what I mean? I was pushing just to be able to show, like, to get approval, like, you know what, I can do this. I wanted to prove it to people, because I think I wanted to prove it to people because sometimes I would feel doubt about my photos. It took a lot of years and dedication, and you have to invest so much and get nothing in return for years. Because there was this one time I had missed one of my family members' birthday party. They threw a big birthday party, but there was a car show. So I head out to the car show. I said, I'll leave early so I can come back, and I didn't make it, you know, and when the whole drive back, I was just feeling guilty. Like, man, I go, I'm spending all this money traveling to these shows and doing all this, and there's nothing in return. You know, I'm trying to make a name for myself. I'm trying to do something, and all I'm doing is missing out all this time with the family. Joe called me, said, hey, there might be a position opening up if you're interested, but you'd have to move down to LA. And they sent me the offer, and I'm like, yeah, you know, signed the paperwork, packed whatever I could in my little car, and drove down, moved in with my friend, and yeah, within a week, I became the feature editor for Lowrider magazine, but my title was editor of Lowrider Arte. It was an art magazine. So I started shooting for them. I would do a lot of the one for my book and do a lot of stuff for Lowrider magazine at the time. And a couple months went down the line, and Joe finally told me, hey, I want you to shoot this cover. And I'm like, oh man, I could die happy now. I have a cover coming. I'm telling you, man, there's no feeling like having your first cover. I went to the 7-Eleven by the store and I saw it. I was like, oh man, I took that photo. And honestly, that first time, man, I walked the different aisles, because I put the magazine in the front, you know, and I scattered it open so it'd just be mine. And I'd go to different aisles. I'm like, oh, it looks good from here. I go, what if I'm gonna buy some chips? Oh, it looks good from here too. What if I'm gonna get a Slurpee? Oh man, it looks good from here, you know? I don't know why I did that, man, but it was just the excitement of having my first cover, man. And now, at the end of everything, I think I did about 94, 95 covers. And sometimes I sit back like, man, people would not loan me their car for a day to shoot for my calendar. And now all the top cars, all the top builders, they've come from New York, from Montreal, Canada. I've traveled to Japan to shoot this. Like, every beautiful lowrider car out there, like, in these last 10 years, I've shot, you know? And I couldn't even get street cars back then when I was doing my calendar. Basic cars, you know? Like, I didn't understand, like, man, you know, I think about it sometimes, like, I'm lucky, you know, because part of it has to be luck. I mean, it's got to be work, the one you put in, but if the right doors don't open, or if you don't smash through those doors when the doors open, you're not going to have it. It's a combination of all these little things in life that add up to this. So, a couple years back, my dad was diagnosed with leukemia. I love Lowrider magazine. I love working for the magazine, but the bad thing about it was I had to do it in LA, and I spent time away from my family. So I was already kind of thinking like, man, I need to leave this place. I need to be closer to home. But it was hard to leave, because your job's so fun, it's so good, and it's like you live such a comfortable life. Like it's hard to just walk out of it. I put in all these years to get in here, and then I was up there for Christmas. And on Christmas Eve, I was watching football, and I heard a loud bang. I'm like, I stayed in the couch a little bit, like, oh, I wonder what that was. And I'm like, with curiosity, just something didn't feel right. So I go to my dad's room, and he had fallen, cracked his head open. So I had to pick him up. So, sorry. Apparently he had an infection in his lungs that his white blood cells couldn't fight because of the leukemia. He had very low blood cell count. They first couldn't know what it was because we went to a hospital in Modesto, and they couldn't figure out what it was because they didn't have specialists. So after a couple of weeks of no progress, we pulled him out. So we checked him in Stanford, and it took him a while too to find out what it was because it was this new infection they hadn't really seen. I forgot the name of it, but they would call it MSD. And every weekend, I would go up to visit him. I drive from Orange County down to Stanford every single weekend. Friday hit, I'm gone. And they were doing all these exams on him and had him on who knows what. Sure enough, he doesn't have much time. So we do all the paperwork and everything to get him home, and they told us, yeah, he's got a month or two. That's what they told us at the end. So I knew he didn't, and I told my brother, he's not gonna make it to the weekend. We got him back home on Tuesday, and I think it was on that Thursday he passed away. So, and from there it's like, man, I love working for Lowrider magazine, but I don't love the magazine more than I love my family. This goal I had for decades, this dream I had, just didn't seem that big anymore. Every Sunday, my brother and my sister come to the house with their family. Every single Sunday. In the morning, we'll have breakfast and we'll hang out. So we always make a day out of the week for the family just to hang out. As lowriders, we always get a bad rep. Oh, gangbangers and drug dealers and this and that. Well, that's just what they put in the movies. That's how they portray us. But when you really look at the people, like I know so many people, these are hard-working business people, A lot of people are entrepreneurs. They have a small business. It might be a tire shop, it might be a tow company. To be able to do a lifestyle like this and have that spending money for your hobby, you have to fight to go further. You can't settle for a 9 to 5 that pays you just enough to get by. When we started Lowrider Roll Models, I recruited a lot of people. I nominated a lot of people because I knew a lot of people in the scene, and I was like, sit back, like, man, that's it's pretty amazing to show this. Cause it's not just about the cars, and all these guys they push themselves to do more, and it was always like, man, we gotta show this. This has to be seen because Hollywood always portrays us as gangbangers. The tattoos and the music, it's just part of the lifestyle that we enjoy. It don't mean that we're gangbanging. Like they're not gang-related tattoos. It's cultural tattoos, And lowriding is part of our culture, and we just love it. Like music, the way you dress, the tattoos, it's just a lifestyle. My name is Beto Mendoza. I'm a lowrider photographer, and I am a lowrider role model.